My parents forced me to pay rent starting at age 14, while my brother enjoyed a free ride. Years later, I uncovered a shocking truth. I was the rightful owner of their house, a secret my grandfather had kept from me. So I exacted a fierce reckoning. This is a long tale, but I need to pour my heart out. What happened at my brother's 35th birthday celebration last weekend sent my entire family into chaos, and I'm relishing every moment of it. I'm Sarah, 30 years old, and I haven't lived in that house for over a decade. This story started long ago when I was 14. My parents, Linda and Bob, decided I was mature enough to contribute to household expenses by paying rent. Meanwhile, my older brother Jake, then 19, lived without contributing a dime, while I handed over half the money I earned from babysitting and a part-time job every month. Yes, you read that correctly. They made their teenage daughter pay rent while their grown son lived like royalty. Let me paint a picture of my childhood. We lived in a stunning 4-bedroom home in a lovely neighborhood. It originally belonged to my grandfather, my mom's father, who had moved to a retirement home when I was around 12. The house was a charming 1950s colonial with a driveway, a sprawling backyard, and a beautiful porch where I loved to relax. Jake claimed the master bedroom upstairs because he was the eldest. It came with its own bathroom and walk-in closet, everything he could want. I, on the other hand, was shoved into a tiny room next to my parents that used to be a sewing closet. No exaggeration, it barely fit a twin bed and a small dresser. Yet I paid $200 a month for the privilege of living in a cupboard. The favoritism was blatant from the start. Jake could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. He flunked out of college after one semester, claiming it was too tough and not his path. Mom just smiled and said, "Everyone finds their way in their own time." When I brought home straight A's, it was expected. When Jake barely passed his GED after 3 attempts, they threw him a celebration. I was 15, working at a local diner after school and on weekends. The owner, Mrs. Patterson, a kind elderly woman, paid me cash under the table since I was too young for a legal job. I'd come home exhausted, smelling of grease and cleaning supplies, only to hand over my rent money while Jake played video games in his spacious room. "You're learning responsibility, Sarah," Mom would say. "Jake needs more time to figure himself out." Figure himself out. At 20, while I was juggling high school and work, Jake's contribution was occasionally taking out the trash after being asked multiple times. Even then, Mom thanked him like he'd saved the world. Meanwhile, I was expected to clean the house, do my own laundry, buy my school supplies, and pay rent. The worst part was how they justified it to others. "We're teaching our kids the value of hard work," Dad would say at neighborhood gatherings. "Sarah's so mature for her age, she practically runs the house." Then Jake would stroll in at 2 p.m. in pajamas, asking Mom for money to hang out with friends. At 16, I got promoted to assistant manager at the diner. Mrs. Patterson saw my work ethic and gave me a decent wage. My rent immediately jumped to $300 a month. Mom's logic. Since I was earning more, I should contribute more to the family. Perfectly reasonable, right? Punish the kid for succeeding. That same year, Jake got a DUI, racking up $2,000 in legal fees. Guess who had to take out a loan to help cover family expenses? If you guessed the 16-year-old paying rent, you're correct. I'll never forget my 17th birthday. I'd saved for months to buy a used Civic I found online. I had just enough for the car and insurance for the first few months. I was thrilled at the prospect of some independence. No more relying on friends for rides or taking the bus everywhere. On my birthday morning, I came downstairs to find my parents at the kitchen table, looking serious. Dad cleared his throat and said we needed to discuss my financial responsibilities, now that I was nearly an adult. "We've decided your rent will increase to $400 a month," Mom said. "You're growing up, you don't use utilities or eat as much food anymore." Just $400 a month for a 17-year-old living in a converted sewing closet. My car fund vanished. I spent my 17th birthday crying in my tiny room while Jake had friends over in the living room, blasting music and eating pizza Mom ordered for them. I graduated high school with a 4.2 GPA and a full scholarship to a state university. You'd think my parents would be proud, maybe even ease up on the rent since I was clearly doing well. Nope. I kept working at the diner, which had new owners but kept me on because I was basically running the place. Every cent I earned went to tuition, books, and that cursed rent. Meanwhile, Jake decided he was an entrepreneur, selling random junk on eBay and calling it a business. He made maybe $50 a month, but Mom and Dad were so proud they converted part of the basement into an office for him, complete with a new computer, printer, and shelves they paid for themselves. I was studying for exams in the tiniest room in the house, while Jake had a full office for his eBay empire. The breaking point came in my junior year of college. I'd been accepted into an amazing unpaid internship at a law firm downtown. It was a dream opportunity for my pre-law track. I'd worked so hard to get it, acing multiple interviews and impressing everyone with my dedication. But I couldn't take it. Without pay, I couldn't afford rent and living expenses. When I asked my parents if we could work out a temporary arrangement for one semester, Mom laughed. "Sweetie, the real world doesn't give you breaks just because you want something. If this internship matters, you'll find a way to make it work." That night, I called the law firm and declined the offer. The attorney who'd been excited to mentor me sounded disappointed. I made up an excuse about family obligations, but I think he knew the truth. Meanwhile, Jake announced he was taking a 6-month break from his business to travel and find himself. Mom and Dad thought it was a brilliant idea and gave him $3,000 for the trip. I graduated with a political science degree, magna cum laude, and moved out immediately. I found a tiny studio apartment across the city and a job as a legal assistant at another law firm. It wasn't much, but for the first time, I wasn't paying hundreds to live in a closet. My parents were upset about my move. "We thought you'd stay home to save money," Mom said. "Your room is always here for you." My room, the sewing closet I'd paid over $30,000 to live in over the years. I went no contact soon after. It wasn't dramatic. I just stopped calling, visiting, or responding to their texts about Sunday dinners. For the first time, I could breathe. Jake, now 28, still lived at home, rent-free. I heard updates through extended family. He'd tried and failed at various ventures. A food truck that lasted 3 months, a t-shirt printing business that never sold a single shirt, a crypto trading scheme that lost Mom and Dad a fortune. Yet he remained their golden boy, needing just a bit more time to find his path. Meanwhile, I climbed the ranks at the law firm, moving from legal assistant to case manager to office manager. The partners valued my work ethic. Imagine that. At 27, I bought my own condo. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I paid for it, furnished it, and maintained it myself. It was the first place where I didn't feel like an unwanted burden. Around the same time, Jake hit another low. He got a girl pregnant, and she left him when she realized he was a 30-year-old living in his parents' basement with no job or prospects. Mom and Dad stepped in to cover child support. Of course, they couldn't let their precious son face consequences. My Aunt Carol, Mom's sister, told me all this. She thought the situation was as messed up as I did and had tried to call out the favoritism over the years, but Mom always had excuses. "Jake's more sensitive. He needs extra support. Sarah's always been so independent." Independent code for forcing a 14-year-old to pay rent. The craziest part, I started believing them. Maybe I was just naturally more capable and Jake needed more help. It took years of therapy to realize it wasn't independence, it was survival. 3 years ago, my grandfather passed away. He'd been in assisted living for over a decade, and I'd lost touch, too consumed with surviving my childhood and building my life to visit as often as I should have. I attended his funeral, where seeing my parents again after years was awkward. They acted like nothing was wrong, like we were still a happy family. Jake, now 32 and still living at home, looked the same as he did at 22. "We should catch up," Mom said at the reception. "It's been too long." I nodded politely and left as soon as I could. I assumed that was the end of it. Grandpa was gone, the house would likely go to Mom, and life would move on. I had my own life, my own home, my own career. I didn't need anything from them. So when a lawyer called 6 months later, I was confused. "Miss Johnson, this is Robert Shen from Shen and Associates. I'm calling about your grandfather's estate." I figured it was paperwork or a small keepsake. "There's been some confusion with your grandfather's will," he continued. "Can you come in to discuss it? It's urgent." His tone made me nervous. I booked an appointment for the following week, assuming it was a tax issue or debt to settle. When I walked into Robert Shen's office, he had a thick file spread across his desk and an unreadable expression. "Miss Johnson," he said, "do you know the details of your grandfather's will?" I assumed it all went to my mom, house, savings, everything. Mr. Shen pulled out several documents. "Your grandfather's will was very specific. He left you the house at 1247 Maple Street, with the condition that ownership would transfer to you at 18. I stared at him. "Excuse me? You've owned your childhood home for 12 years, Miss Johnson," he said. "Your grandfather wanted to ensure you had security given your family dynamics." My head spun. "But my parents live there. My brother lives there." "Yes," Mr. Shen said cautiously, "and that's where it gets complicated." He showed me bank statements, mortgage records, and receipts, all showing payments made by Linda and Bob Johnson for a house they didn't own. "It appears your parents were unaware of the ownership change. They've been paying taxes, insurance, and maintenance, but legally they've been living in your house." "That's impossible," I said. "Someone would have told me." "There'd be paperwork." Mr. Shen's face darkened. "There was. I sent a certified letter to your address in 2011 when you turned 18. He showed me the letter, returned as undeliverable. The address was my parents' house, where I was living and paying rent. I sent 3 more letters over the next few months, all returned. I also called the phone number on file. He showed me the number, my parents' landline. I left multiple messages explaining I needed to discuss your inheritance. Someone claiming to be your mother said you were busy with studies and would pass along the message. The room tilted. My parents had intercepted every attempt to inform me I owned the house. For 12 years, I'd paid rent to live in my own property while they collected my money and paid property taxes. "There's more," Mr. Shen said gently. "Your parents took out a mortgage on the property 3 years ago, borrowing $150,000 using the house as collateral." "How is that legal if I'm the owner?" I asked. His jaw tightened. "It's not. Someone forged your signature on the loan documents." He showed me the paperwork, my signature or something resembling it, on documents I'd never seen. "That's fraud," I said. "Yes," he confirmed. The next hour was a blur of legal details and document reviews. The bottom line, I'd legally owned my childhood home since I was 18. My parents had been living there unlawfully, essentially as squatters, while charging me rent and committing mortgage fraud. "What are my options?" I asked. Mr. Shen laid it out. I could file charges for fraud and mail tampering, sue for the rent I'd paid, evict them immediately since they had no legal right to be there, or try to negotiate privately. "What would you advise?" I asked. "It depends on what kind of relationship you want with your family moving forward," he said. I thought long and hard. What relationship did I want? I pictured myself at 14, scraping together babysitting money while Jake played video games. I thought of giving up my dream internship because I couldn't afford rent on a house I owned. I thought of living in a closet-sized room while paying for it. "I want them out," I said, "but I want to do it properly." Mr. Shen nodded. "We'll serve an eviction notice. Typically it's 30 days, but given the fraud, we could expedite it." "Actually," I said, "I have a better idea." Jake's 35th birthday party was set for the following Saturday. Mom had mentioned it in one of her guilt-trippy voicemails, a backyard barbecue to celebrate another year of Jake finding himself. "I want to crash the party," I told Mr. Shen. He raised an eyebrow. "That's dramatic. They've had 12 years to be honest with me," I said. "I think I've earned a little drama." The week before the party was surreal. I drove by the house, my house, several times, seeing it in a new light. The new roof they'd installed a few years ago, the fresh paint, the landscaping Mom bragged about on Facebook, all paid for with my rent money. I hired a private investigator to document everything. Photos of Jake's car, a BMW Mom and Dad co-signed for in the driveway, images of his basement office setup, proof of long-term occupancy by people with no legal right to be there. I also had Mr. Shen dig deeper into the mortgage fraud. The $150,000 loan had funded Jake's failed businesses, lavish family vacations, and new appliances for the house. They'd been living large off my property. The day of the party arrived. I pulled up around 2 p.m., hearing music and laughter from the backyard. I parked on the street and walked to the front door, my front door. Mom answered, her face lighting up. "Sarah, oh my gosh, you came." She hugged me before I could stop her. "Jake will be so surprised. We all hoped you'd come around." "I bet," I said, letting her lead me inside. She showed me around the house, my house, pointing out their upgrades. "We redid the kitchen last year, and you should see the master bathroom. Your dad finally finished the remodel." My house. They were remodeling my house. The backyard was packed with unfamiliar faces, Jake's friends, neighbors, some relatives. Jake stood by the grill, wearing a birthday boy apron and holding a beer. He looked like a slightly puffier version of his 25-year-old self. "Holy crap, Sarah," he shouted when he saw me. "I can't believe you're here." He gave me a bear hug, acting like we were close siblings who just reunited. "We need to catch up," he said. I've got so much to tell you about my new project. I'm getting into crypto mining. It's gonna be huge. Of course it was. For about an hour, I played along, chatting and letting everyone gush about the family reunion. Mom kept snapping photos, posting them on social media with captions like, "My kids together again." Dad pulled me aside at one point. "Your mom's been worried about you. We both have. This distance isn't healthy." "You're right," I said. "It's time to set things straight." At 3:30 p.m., Mr. Shen arrived. I told him to park on the street and wait for my text. He walked in with a formal briefcase and his sternest lawyer face. "Excuse me," he said, stepping into the backyard. "I'm looking for Linda, Bob, and Jake Johnson." The party chatter stopped. Mom approached, her hostess smile faltering. "That's us. Can I help you?" "I'm Robert Shen, attorney. I have legal documents to serve." Dad stepped forward, his face darkening. "What kind of documents?" Mr. Shen opened his briefcase slowly. "Eviction notices for Linda, Bob, and Jake Johnson, requiring you to vacate 1247 Maple Street within 30 days. Silence fell. "I'm sorry, what?" Mom's voice jumped an octave. "You're being evicted from this property," Mr. Shen said. "The legal owner demands you leave." Jake let out a nervous laugh. "Legal owner. This is our parents' house." "Actually," Mr. Shen said, locking eyes with him, "this house belongs to Sarah Johnson. She's owned it since she was 18. Every head turned to me, stood up from the picnic table. "Surprise," I said. "Happy birthday, Jake." Mom's face cycled through shock, confusion, and panic. "This is absurd. There's been a mistake." "No mistake," Mr. Shen said, pulling out documents. "Sarah inherited this property from her grandfather 12 years ago. You've been living here unlawfully while charging the owner rent." "That's impossible," Dad stammered. "We'd have known." "Someone tried to tell me," I said. "Mr. Shen sent letters and called. You intercepted them and said I was too busy to talk." Mom's expression confirmed everything. She remembered those calls. "And that's not all," Mr. Shen continued. "You took out a mortgage on a property you don't own, committing fraud. You forged the owner's signature to borrow $150,000. Jake stared, dumbfounded. "Wait, so Sarah owns this house?" "Since she was 18, Mr. Shen confirmed. "Which means," I said, looking at Jake, "for 12 years I paid rent to live in my own house while you lived here for free." The reality hit. Jake turned to Mom and Dad. "You knew." Mom started sobbing. "We didn't know." "How could we?" "You intercepted legal mail for a decade," Mr. Shen said calmly. "That's a federal offense." Dad's face reddened. "Now hold on, we've put a lot of money into this house, taxes, insurance, upkeep. We deserve some consideration." "You deserve jail," I said, "but I'm generous. You have 30 days to leave my house." "My house," Jake's voice cracked. "This is our family home. It's my home," I said. "Grandpa left it to me. Not you, not Mom and Dad, me, because he saw how you all treated me." "What's that supposed to mean?" Jake snapped. "It means he saw you, a grown man, living off Mom and Dad while your 14-year-old sister paid rent. He wanted me to have something secure." Jake's face turned red. "I didn't make you pay rent. That was their call. And you never once said it was unfair. You never offered to chip in. You never suggested a grown man should contribute before a kid. It's not my fault. Nothing ever is it?" I looked at the crowd, now filming the drama. 35 years old, living in Mom and Dad's basement, no job, no prospects, still blaming everyone else. Mr. Shen cleared his throat. "I'm serving these eviction notices. You have 30 days from today to vacate. All personal belongings must be removed." "What about our stuff?" Mom pleaded. "We have a lifetime of things here." "Take them," I said. "But you have 30 days. "Where are we supposed to go?" Dad asked. "Rent a place like normal people," I said. "You can't afford rent because you've been living off my property's equity instead of building your own." Mr. Shen handed me a folder. "Copies for your records. If they don't leave voluntarily, we can pursue formal eviction through the courts. As for the mortgage fraud, we'll need to contact the FBI." "FBI?" Mom whispered. "You forged a signature to borrow $150,000, Mr. Shen explained. "That's wire fraud, bank fraud, and forgery federal crimes." Jake collapsed onto a lawn chair. "This is insane." "What's insane," I said, "is that you're 35 and your biggest worry is getting kicked out of your parents' house. Most people your age have homes, careers, families they support." "I'm trying to start a family," he protested. "From your parents' basement with get-rich-quick schemes?" Party guests started leaving, sensing the drama wasn't ending soon. Aunt Carol stayed, though. She approached Mom. "Linda, is this true? You made Sarah pay rent for her own house?" Mom couldn't respond. "Since she was 14, I confirmed, while Jake lived free." Good Lord, Linda, Carol said. What's wrong with you? Jake finally exploded. This is nonsense. You can't show up after years of no contact and kick us out. It's my house, I said. Grandpa left it to me because he knew what kind of people you are. I turned to the crowd. I paid over $30,000 to live in my own house while you lived free. You stole from me for 12 years. Mom begged. Can we discuss this privately? You're embarrassing us. You embarrassed yourselves, I said. This is just consequences. I walked toward the back door, then turned. Oh, and Jake, happy 35th. Maybe your next birthday will be in your own place. As I left, I heard Mom sobbing, Dad trying to comfort her, and Jake yelling into his phone, probably scrambling for a place to stay. Mr. Shen followed me out. That went well, he asked, smirking. Better than I hoped, I said. What if they don't leave? Then we go to court and I press charges for fraud. Are you ready for the family fallout? I looked back at the house, my house, where I'd spent so many miserable years. There's no family to fall out with, I said. There hasn't been for years. The drive home was surreal. For the first time, I felt in control of my own story. I'd been the victim, the overlooked daughter, the one who had to figure everything out alone. But I'd been the owner all along. That night, my phone blew up, texts from Mom, calls from Dad, voicemails from Jake, even relatives who'd witnessed the scene asking if it was real. I ignored them all. I was done managing their emotions and fixing their problems. Over the next few weeks, Aunt Carol told me Mom and Dad found a small apartment across town. Jake was crashing with a friend, but it wasn't going well since he had no money or job prospects. He kept calling, begging me to reconsider, offering to pay back the rent, suggesting I could own the house but let him stay. The audacity. Exactly 30 days later, I returned with Mr. Shen and a locksmith. Mom and Dad had moved out but left a mess. Jake's basement setup, gaming consoles, office equipment, boxes of stuff, was still there. I donated it all to charity and changed the locks. The house was finally fully mine. I'm still deciding what to do with it. Part of me wants to sell it and cut ties with the memories, but another part wants to renovate it, make it truly mine instead of the place where I was never valued. Either way, it's my choice. For the first time, I own something that can't be taken away, manipulated, or tied to conditions. Last week, Jake texted demanding his stuff back. I sent him a photo of the Goodwill donation receipt. Some lessons are harder to learn than others. Update, 6 months later. The legal fallout was bigger than expected. The FBI's investigation into the mortgage fraud revealed Mom and Dad had taken out multiple loans, totaling closer to $300,000, using forged documents. Dad pleaded guilty to avoid a longer trial, getting 2 years in prison and restitution orders. Mom got a similar deal plus 200 hours of community service. Jake wasn't charged, likely because he was too oblivious to be involved, but that's just him ignoring anything that doesn't directly benefit him. Family-wise, things are tense. 3 months after the eviction, Jake called from Mom and Dad's cramped apartment where all three were living. I get it now, he said, how tough it was for you growing up. I didn't respond. Some apologies come too late.